Alrighty, it looks like that we are live. So I'm now, well, not officially, but potentially Major Hurricane Andres. Um, Now let's hit the screen share button. And let's get this starting to go out of the way. So the latest information, as provided by the National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Andres is currently located at 15.1, 15.1 north, 116.8 west. Should be absolutely no threat to land as far as landfall is concerned. I imagine it might be producing some rip currents and choppy surf along the western Mexican coast. It currently has maximum sustained winds, according to the National Hurricane Center, of 95 knots and a central pressure of 966 millibars. As far as size, the tropical storm force winds, the wind field is about average. However, the hurricane force wind field is rather small, and it's moving at a moderately slow pace of 6 knots, which, to remind myself, it rates it as a 29 on the cyclone destruction scale, and actually pretty high up on the stage 9. The stage 6 cutoff is 32 points, so that is definitely very significant. As far as other things, and I'll see if the new thing has come out yet. No. Simis currently has the storm actually well into the major hurricane as 107.2 knots, which would equate to a 123 mile per hour hurricane and a pressure of 955 millibars, which is quite severe. However, they do say that weakening is likely, and satellite imagery, we'll get to that later. As far as RAM is concerned, they also have the storm as a major hurricane. So if Andres does not become a major hurricane, as classified by the National Hurricane Center, I'm pretty sure that the storm will be upgraded in postseason analysis. Taking a look at the latest satellite imagery, and I guess this isn't quite latest, but still, if we take a look at the satellite imagery, clearly defined eye starting to go away in the storm, but definitely if it wasn't a Cat 3 status right now, it was probably a Cat 3 while it had that pretty significant eye. Reason for weakening rather, certainly isn't sea surface temperatures or wind shear, which we'll get to in a moment, but dry air is starting to encroach upon the system from the north and west side and is visibly starting to erode the system away. If we take a look at the Dvorak imagery, the white, which would suggest which are T60 cloud tops, if they end up wrapping all the way around the center and thickly all the way around the center, not just like mildly like this. It's wrapped 3/4 of the way around the center, which is pretty much imperative of a T 5.0 to T 5.5, which is pretty much in the range of what it is right now. If we take a look at the RB top imagery, pretty much not much different from the Dvorak imagery, showing a really big blow up of thunderstorms on the eastern side of the system here in the last couple of hours, but a diminishment in the temperature inside the eye, which could be an issue. Taking a look at models now, I haven't seen what these are going to do, and I haven't pre-done them, so they're going to be a little laggy, very laggy. But the GFS model has the storm going off to the north and west. Pretty much, these are MSLP values, so it's not going to show you if it's a Category 2 or not. But the GFS has it maintaining its strength for a relatively long time, and then getting to about the latitude of the Baja Peninsula, and then starting to and then start to weaken as it stalls out. Meanwhile, the storm to the south and west of it ends up beginning to strengthen, potentially to something rather severe. And we'll take a look at that more in detail in a moment. Here's the storm here on the left, as the GFS has it making landfall on the Baja Peninsula, but that is a long, 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 long time out. All right. The ECMWF model, I'm not imagining it's going to be saying much different. It's carrying the storm off to the north and west generally, if the model would actually play and stop buffering. And actually has the storm pretty deep at this point, as it's probably caught up with everything. And as it continues off to the north and west into more dry air and cooler sea surface temperatures, the storm is going to eventually weaken. Meanwhile, the other invests that the NHC is predicting to form 80% now in the next 5 days, the ECMWF has this becoming at least a minor hurricane here off the coast of Mexico, potentially a little bit more there at the end of the run. Meanwhile, the NAM model, we're not going to see much out of it because the NAM doesn't necessarily reach that far out into the Eastern Pacific, but we can see the outward stretch of the cyclone envelope as it comes up here. And pretty much the same thing. The GFS had the storm trekking to the east and weaker than the ECMWF. This storm has it, well, the ECMWF to the west and stronger, the NAM sort of following the ECWF, but not quite. If we take a look at sea surface temperatures, which we'll continue on here, the storm is located in about this region here, which is a little hot spot actually in the Eastern Pacific, and potentially the northern edge of a pool of 27 to 28 degrees Celsius waters, which are certainly favorable for strengthening. And then we take a look at the wind shear map and how wind shear has affected the storm since it's began. And you can especially see now the pocket of wind shear is basically moving with the storm, and there is basically no wind shear to affect the storm at all, basically none to speak of. And the storm that is expected to develop to the south and east of the storm, currently in hostile shear conditions, but that is expected to decrease. If we go back, I'm also going to take a look at upper divergence of the storm. And as we can see, the upper divergence map actually is not that great. And this has a water vapor image background on the overlay, and you can really see the blacks being the dry air encroaching upon the system here. So divergence certainly isn't good. If we take a look at the lower convergence, however, that's certainly still there. So the storm is not producing quite the impressive anticyclone in the upper atmosphere, which is a little interesting. If we take a look at mid-level shear is definitely elevated a little bit. Obviously, around the cyclone, it's going to be more than at the center, which is still basically none, which is what it needs to be at. As long as that's going with the storm, that really doesn't affect it. I clicked on the wrong one. If we take a look at all the vorticities, obviously vorticity is rather large for the hurricane, but more looking back at this invest. So that pretty much covers Andres. Now to cover the potential storm that is going to develop behind it. And also, I'm interested in seeing the ECMWF here because it had the storm rather deep here for a long time, coming out off of the and usually, and this storm is going directly into the dry air, so let's see what the pressure is. I think it's 976, which would still be a Category 2 hurricane at this point in time, 96 hours out, which, well, it's 980. If we take a look at 96 hours out, of course, none of the numbers register, and I don't feel like counting them out. If I can get another zoom in here. I know I'm kind of using up a lot of CPU here, but come on, zoom in. Work with me, please. It's not going to work with me, which kind of sucks. Okay, so 92, 88, so 92, 88, 80, 76, oh, 72, 68, 64. So at 96 hours, this is 964 millibars if I counted correctly, and I probably didn't. So the storm is basically, by the ECMWF, not expected to weaken a significant amount for a decent amount of time, which I find quite interesting because it's moving towards areas of much drier conditions, which the ECMWF does not show. And it's moving towards colder sea surface temperatures, and the fact that they still have the storm as a strong Category 2 out here is quite the surprise to me. The ECMWF is, and I don't think the ECMWF is the outlier. I'll have to take a look and actually see other model guidances. I know I'm probably sounding like a complete tool right now, but I don't want to make any certain judgments. I know I will someday have to make certain judgments. But anyways, we take a look at 96 hours, and we take a look at the wind map, and the wind map is not in miles per hour, it's in knots. If I can pan over here to this, it's showing this storm definitely as a hurricane. So I don't think we need to look at that any further. So now taking a look at the wind in knots, see how this storm develops as it heads towards the Baja Peninsula. The GFS had this making landfall much later on. ECMWF, see how the wind map goes, and of course it's going to lag significantly behind. And as it has the storm developing reds here, the pinks are more signature for a hurricane, and I don't see any pinks actually developing in the storm. So the ECMWF isn't necessarily expecting a hurricane out of this storm, but definitely a strong tropical storm is likely to come out of the storm as it heads towards western Mexico and potentially landfall in the Baja Peninsula. This is the ECMWF, yeah. Basically with the GFS taking it towards the Baja Peninsula. I'll switch to the wind map, which I trust a lot less on the GFS than I do the ECMWF. And we'll take a look at 96 hours. And we'll take a look at, no, that's not going to work because that's temperature. Okay, so the storm here is much weaker than what the ECMWF had it. As the storm basically stalling, and so is the refresh rate. Now here the GFS has the storm as a definite hurricane with a CDO rather than an I, and has the storm trekking off towards the Baja Peninsula and making landfall as a tropical depression or a weak tropical storm. So I'm going to close these two. I'm going to close these two. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to shut this off and we're going to bring up this. Okay. Well, a scale would certainly be nice, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get that exactly. So basically out here, on this area where the NHC is expecting the storm to be a tropical depression, the ECMWF has it still a rather significant storm. So, well, that would be tropical storm if its wind speed is 40, so that's a bug. But with the storm still located out here, it's still potentially a major hurricane. Does that work? Well, we'll have to see how everything plays out. I don't think we need evacuation routes. I don't think we need storm surge. Let's take a look at this. Well, it's supposed to have the cone of uncertainty. Hash track and forecast. Take off the cone of uncertainty because that doesn't work. Hurricane Hunter observations, I don't think there has been any. If we take a look at wind radii, yeah, that's about right. It's basically what the NHC has. And computer models. Duh. Oh, now they all load. Okay, so okay, well that's interesting. I wonder if I can click on each individual point and see which model this is. And okay, so this model has the storm developing as a subtropical system. Not sure how that's going to work. And I don't know why it would be subtropical when it's in 30-degree water. And then moving out. This I'm going to imagine is the ECMWF, but I could be completely wrong. Yeah, category 2 at 105 miles an hour. So that's definitely interesting. So this would be what the ECMWF model is predicting. And it's saying a strong category 2 here. I'm not sure what this model is doing out here. But this has what? Okay, something is up with these points. Okay, this is the more conservative. I think this is pretty much the GFS. And it has a weakening to tropical storm. And out here it's a very weak tropical storm. And then out here, there's no data associated with that. And I think this blue model kind of went berserk here at the end because it's kind of level, and then all of a sudden it just goes completely haywire at the end, doing this weird thing and having it in category 4. But this blue model is expecting it to strengthen up to a category 4. As far as this purple model, does not have any details on the storm. This white one has no details for the strength. This purple one, okay, so this purple one has some strength data, as it's expected to come out to here and pretty much stall out as a rather stronger tropical storm. Here's this blue model as an outlier with no strength ideas added to it. Here's another model with strength, expecting it to have a category 3 intensity for definitely a little bit of a while, and then it sort of stalls out and then heads towards Baja California as it slowly continues to weaken, and I'm pretty sure basically a dead storm by this point. 55 miles an hour, the next data point's probably 35. This green model has a subtropical storm. So how about this? No, that's this berserk model showing this out to category 4 145. I'm not exactly 100% sure what happened with that model, but I'm not even 100% sure which models are which. Looks like the gray model's kind of with the purple one on this one. Pretty much the same strength, intensity, and track. See what this teal one says. Category 3 hurricane. Well, that's at 110 miles an hour, which is a category 2. And then, again, has it reach a certain point out here and then stall out, going down to basically a knot by the end of it. So I think it's rather interesting that the GFS has what I would rather expect from the cyclone, and the ECMWF having a powerful category 2 hurricane out here with potentially sub 970 millibar pressures. Puzzles me a little bit why the ECMWF would do that and why the GFS would be more normal. Man, I haven't really taken a look at this stuff in a while, haven't I? I really haven't taken a look at this stuff since like 2012. And back then, it was the exact opposite. The GFS was the one that was crazy on the strengthening. The ECMWF was the most accurate one. Like, you did not mess with the European model. Now, I don't know if it's malfunctioning or... Because I don't think there's going to be a Category 2 hurricane in 96 hours about 1,500 miles to the east of the Big Island of Hawaii. I don't see that. Not, especially not in June. Like if it was maybe August, September, where the sea surface temperatures are a little bit more favorable and there wasn't dry air to the west of it, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But basically, this ECMWF has this taking like an Izelle or Julio type path. So that's certainly to be interesting. As far as this tropical low out here, is it probably going to develop? Yeah, the conditions are going to be there once the shear goes away and it has its upper divergence, lower convergence. It's going to develop. Sea surface temperatures are 30 plus. Don't have to worry about that. So basically, we just have to wait for the upper level winds from Andres to die down, and this storm will not exactly blow up, but it will strengthen. as it's probably going to move off to the north and west towards Mexico, probably reach peak strength in this general area, and then stall out, and then eventually head up towards the Baja California Peninsula. Maybe similar to a track like Odile, just a little bit to the further west. But that's basically all that I have to say tonight, because the Atlantic is not good. And we'll just mention the North Atlantic here for a second. And I know the Atlantic hurricane season's supposed to start eventually, but it's probably going to be another inactive season. It's probably going to be a dud similar to 2013. Might not even be a major hurricane develop, which would be the second time in 3 years. I don't think that's happened in God knows how long. The last season previous to 2013 that didn't have any major hurricanes, I think, was 1994. And the season previous to that, I think, was 1984. So definitely some eyebrow-raising statistics when we don't have a major hurricane in the Atlantic hurricane season. It's very rare to see it. Well, we might have 2 of those kinds of instances in 3 years, and we might be hitting a dud in tropical cyclone activity after basically 15, 17, 18 years of every single season being active. If you want to take out, well, let's see here, 10 nearly record active seasons versus 5 at or below average seasons. The 2009 Atlantic hurricane season is considered a dud. It's an average season, maybe even a little bit above average. I know people won't like to say that, hear that. 2006 is less active than 2009, I'll say. And then 1997, I think, was a dud year. I believe so was 96. But 96 had portents in it, I think it was. So basically here, the Atlantic, Death Valley. We have a couple of pockets of wind shear here in the subtropical layers, but if you think that they're going to develop, I'm going to have to disprove you here, because in that subtropical region that has the north and east of Bermuda, up in this area, well, it does have 20 degrees C surface temperatures working for it, but you need probably at least 22 usually to support a hybrid system, and that energy is just not there, unfortunately. That energy is just not there. And I imagine if I take a look at, you know what, let's just do that right now. Let's just take off all of these. Let's take a look at an Atlantic wide map imagery, and we'll see if potentially if we can see anything developing. I don't think that we're going to see that. So water vapor, so that's another issue. Not only is the shear zone, it's also a complete dry zone. Here's Bermuda. I'm going to take a guess with definite some kind of moisture above it. Let's see here, just dead. There's just no moisture. There's a pocket of moisture here, but I don't know if that's just developed or if that's potentially a tropical wave. We'll take a look at that right now. If it's potentially, no, that's just a random buildup of moisture. And when you take a look at this, you can really see the shear just saying nope. to everything. Just strong blowing easterly winds across the entire tropical Atlantic basin, completely rendering any type of moisture blow up that might happen to be completely useless. We have a moisture blow up here to the south and west of Africa, but it's just too early in the season to see something like that. Um, I mean, that is like in this area, which is pretty far south for an Atlantic cyclone. I mean, it's like 5, 6 degrees north. But even that area, if I can get back to it, there it is. Even in that area, that's the only pronounced area of moisture that I see. We have another area of moisture that's coming off the coast of Texas and into the Gulf of Mexico. And usually that's how early season storms develop. Moisture comes off the end of a cold front or an extratropical cyclone or whatever. And that moisture just stalls and low pressure is able to develop, and they're able to organize. But again, for anyone that would like to see it, just easterlies are well, they're westerlies, not easterlies. Just storms just completely blowing in from the west and obliterating any shot of development of a tropical cyclone. You can even see the thunderstorms here that are trying to develop, and they're just getting their tops completely blown off by the shear. So currently I render the North Atlantic inhospitable, and it's probably going to be inhospitable for a while. So unless there is any, you know what, at this time I'm going to check other things. I'm not expecting to find other things, but I'm going to check other things. And as I would figure, yeah, no other things are happening. So that's pretty much it. Probably going to be going to bed now. And well, I didn't feel like writing a huge wall of text like I did last morning, and I'd like to get some sleep tonight. So Andres, potentially a major hurricane right now. ECMWF going berserk, keeping the things at Category 2 on its way to Hawaii. Meanwhile, basically every other model that doesn't go berserk has the storm gradually weakening, moving off to either the west-northwest or the northwest. And even if it does end up curving to the north and east, should either dissipate or weaken significantly before affecting any land. As far as the storm behind it, it is probably not going to be a significant threat in the next 120 hours. But after then, there should be another assessment of the situation, and we could potentially have either a weak hurricane. The GFS had the storm pretty strong, so either hurricane or strong tropical storm possibly swirling off the coast of Mexico right after Andres. So the Eastern Pacific Basin getting a definite kickstart to the season, as we've had 4 invests right in a row. 2 of them that was near the coast of Hawaii didn't develop, but the 2 closer to Mexico are more than likely going to. And I'll say this right now. If Andres ends up doing what the ECMWF says, maintaining Category 2 intensity all the way out there, halfway to Hawaii, I will give the ECMWF model all the props in the world, because that will be a freaking miracle at best. But I've been wrong before. I've been way wrong before. Definitely, we'll see if You know what? If Andres is a Category 2, well, Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, if it's even out where the ECMWF says, and it's a Category 1, Category 2, even if it's defined out there, I'll be shocked. But if it's a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, I'll make another live update. I'm going to see what the hell happened to the storm over the last 5 days. So, well, until then, the first weekly ENVISION should be coming out sometime on Monday, which will be a good thing. And I'm pretty much just going to be saying the same things I just said right now, that the Atlantic is a complete graveyard for tropical cyclones at the moment. I don't see that changing in 36 hours. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, see you all later.